Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today, today is Taco Tuesday.
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth and close your eyes. It's raining tacos.
It's raining tacos out in the street. Tacos, all you can eat. Lettuce and shells, cheese and meat. It's raining tacos. Yum, 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 yummity yum. It's like a dream. Yum, 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 yummity yum. Bring your sour cream.
Oh, that's right, folks. Today, once again, is Taco Tuesday. We are enjoying the grub, and maybe it's just because we like to eat. I don't know. Like I said, I've always said tacos are the quintessential example of America, like how we have become, like, I don't want to say a melting pot. Yeah, let's say melting pot or a tossed salad, however you want to call it. But we just take everything that is brought to the United States of America and we just make it better. We do. Anyway. Having a good time. Do not know what sort of tacos I will be enjoying this evening, but my daughter has assured me that tacos are on the menu. So we shall see exactly how that works out. I've never had a bad taco. I guess I don't know if it's just, maybe it's just me, but I think you really got to go a long way to mess up a taco. It takes a lot of work. So I'm believing that, all is going to be good in the DeLuz household this evening as we enjoy our tacos. In any case, as you can see, Mike is not here with us today, but I am here, you're here, we're here. We're going to have a great time talking about the news of the day, but we're going to do it like we normally do. We're going to start off with a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with the folks over at Hitman Industries. Now, they make rifle and pistol caliber barrels. They are available for purchase at any length. All you have to do is go to their website, hitmanindustries.net. Check them out, find the barrel that you're looking for, and make your purchase today. Then we've got the folks over at the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. In fact, Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. Find out why. All you got to do is go to cragop.org. That's cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market. You will find them at hawgholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com. I know, spelled funny. HAWG, helping Americans wear guns. How much do they want to help Americans wear guns? So much so that if you go there, you find one that you want to buy, all you have to do is use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there. And you are going to get your Hawg holster on discount today. And then finally, if you're looking to buy some new gear, weather's a changing, so guess what? The gear is a changing. Go to uscombatgear.com where you can find all things tactical except the gun. Now, they specialize in group sales. So if you have an agency, if you're a buying agent for an agency, or maybe for your department, or you have a gun club or something like that, and you're looking to make a big purchase you need to go there. Go there today, right now. Check them out. Spend some money with them. Trust me, they have a huge selection. They have great prices and phenomenal customer service. Check them out today. U.S. Combat Gear, the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun. All right, let's go ahead and get into now today's stories. We're going to start with with a story that's a kind of near and dear to my heart. It's an issue or something that we're dealing with here in Sacramento. As you know, I am a school board member. I sit on a local school board here in Sacramento. The district where I sit on the board, let's just say that, what's the word I'm looking for? Let's just say we're a smaller district. So we don't deal with a lot of the issues that some of the larger districts have to deal with. And one of those being the effects of large labor unions and their ability or their desire to dramatically impact the quality of education that we're able to provide to our students. Well, there's a big move right now in the state of California. If you live in California, you've probably heard about this. It's literally, all of the big districts are in the process, or not all the big districts, but a lot of the larger districts are in the process of going out on strike. And when I say going out on strike, I'm not talking like, okay, they sat down, they had negotiations, and the district offered them what they could afford, and or not offered. There's not a haggling that is going on. There is not a realistic expectation of what districts can actually do. What's happened is that this is a part of a statewide effort by the California Teachers Association. And this effort that they are doing, it's called We Can't Wait, is the movement that they are pushing here. And if you don't believe me, all you got to do is take a look right here at their website. This is their campaign website. And if you look down here, it says our public schools are worth fighting for. But notice they're not negotiating. They're not debating for public schools. Everything that they're asking for has to do with pay, has to do with benefits, has to do with increasing their membership size. And they have basically 32 California school districts, several of which are right here in Sacramento, California. If you look here, you've got Anaheim, you've got Berkeley, you've got Berryessa, you've got what it doesn't say here is you've also got LA Unified, you've got Elk Grove Unified, you've got City of Sacramento school districts. And the things that they are debating, first of all, they're talking about fully staffing schools. So what they're talking about is class size and caseloads, which basically means they want more members. They're saying that they want safe, sustainable. There is nothing in what they are looking for. Oh, they're talking about layoffs. So in other words, they don't want people to be laid off. But what they're also looking for, they're talking about competitive wage and benefits. Well, keeping in mind that California teachers are paid on average over $100,000 a year. That's for 9 months worth of work and a job that is largely guaranteed after about 18 months. And here's what they're looking to do. They're saying here, the union educators from school districts across the state are organizing alongside parents, students, and communities to win. What they're doing is they are striking. Here in Sacramento, you have school districts like the San Juan School District is striking. You have Sacramento City Unified is threatening a strike. Twin Rivers, which is another large school district, is going out on strike. Natomas Unified School District here in Sacramento, once again, is going out on strike. And to put it to you this way, this effort is actually gaining national attention. This is an article over at Politico. It says, United Front, California teachers unions raise stakes in contract talks. California's teachers unions are flexing their muscle in a new way, banding together to leverage the threat of mass strikes for better pay and increased funding from the state. Teachers in San Francisco have announced they are walking off the job Monday. Their counterparts in San Diego are set for a one-day work stoppage. Now, by the way, this is last month, right? Now you have not only Los Angeles, you've got San Diego, you've also got Sacramento, not Sacramento, you've got Elk Grove. No, not Elk Grove. You've got San Juan Unified. You've got Twin Rivers Unified. You've got Natomas Unified. You've got a bunch of other districts up and down the state. All told, there are more than 24, actually almost 36 unions representing about 80,000 teachers around the state. Say they are at an impasse in negotiations over new contracts. The confluence of labor unrest in so many school districts is not happenstance, but the result of a strategy organized by the California Teachers Association, the union's politically powerful state operation. Looking ahead to this day, the association coordinated with local chapters aligning their contracts to expire at the same time last summer, which has led to a chorus of strike threats. The campaign, dubbed "We Can't Wait," is meant to improve the hands that local union officials are playing during negotiations over improved class sizes, not more resources for students, better wages and benefits. That's what they're looking for right there. According to a statement put out by CTA, it is to show strength in a deep blue state in which organized labor holds significant sway, but one that comes with some risk. In an election year which teachers unions are hoping to win over voters on proposed ballot measure that would boost school funding by making permanent tax on the state's wealthiest residents, widespread strikes could backfire if teachers don't win public support for their demands. So this is all a publicity stunt. In other words, if your kids right now are not in class in the state of California, it's because they are basically pawns. They are the hostages in this hostage negotiation in order to improve the pay for teachers. Now, once again, I'll just say this. In the state of California, first of all, the state of California has the highest paid teachers in the entire country. No doubt. There is no doubt that they make over $100,000 a year. When I say over 100, in some cases, like in the area of Northern California, it's closer to $110,000 a year. That's for 9 months worth of work, keeping in mind that they're off during the summer, June, July, August, right? They get just about every, not just about, they get every holiday off. They get 2 weeks during the Christmas holiday. And then on top of that, in the state of California, we have this thing called tenure, right? Every state has it, but in California, you get tenure after 2 years, meaning it takes an act of Congress. I say an act of Congress because God's not allowed in California public schools, but it takes an act of Congress to get rid of you, to get rid of a bad teacher. In fact, they did a study, and this was well over a decade ago. It takes on average, I'm going to try and update the numbers in my head. So you have to figure, if you're going to get rid of somebody, it takes them an average of 3 years to get rid of a bad teacher, right? So if it's an average of 3 years, that means that you've got to pay them those 3 years. So that right there, at average of $100,000 a year, is going to be $300,000. And then you also have the legal fees associated to it. Basically, it takes about $500,000 to get rid of and 3 years to get rid of a bad teacher in the state of California. So most people tend not to fire teachers once they get tenured. Now, we also have this requirement that if you're going to let a teacher go, you have to notify them or give them notice in March of the year before you're basically not going to re-up their contract, or you're going to be letting them go. What does that mean? That means that if you're going to keep them, if you're going to get rid of them during their probationary period, when you can get rid of them, you only really have 18 months. You don't have 2 years, right? Because you get to finish out your second year, but you don't get those last 3 months. You don't get those last 3 or 4 months of the school year. So teachers have to know basically 18 months in advance that they're going to be letting them go. So let's see, 6-figure income, a quarter of the year off, all vacations, no nights, no weekend, or very few nights, no weekends, or very few weekends, and you pretty much got a job for life. Someone tell me, where's the negative here? Someone tell me where they're not benefiting. Anyway, all that having been said, now what they're doing is, in the state of California, they're coming together, and you've got this district over here and this district over here are coming together, and they are negotiating together. They're saying, no, unless we all get what we want, we're all going out on strike. And what they're asking for, by the way, just so you know, is beyond unreasonable. It's beyond what many of these districts can afford. I know because I've talked with some of the board members. Now, board members, school districts aren't allowed to come together and collaborate. They're not allowed to come together and talk about how they're going to handle some of this stuff, right? They're not allowed to say, you know what, none of us are going to offer our teachers or our staff X amount of dollars. We're not going to offer any of them anything. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to collude together and make sure that they don't have the right or the ability and not negotiate in good faith. You know that if we did that, if school districts did that they would be, oh my God, they would lose their minds. They would be out there filing lawsuits against school districts for coming together and colluding, calling it monopolistic. But that's exactly what they're doing. And they're saying, well, we're trying to get more money from state lawmakers. Well, keep in mind, these are the same lawmakers who are passing laws that are chasing the people who pay most of our taxes in the state of California out of the state of California. You heard what they said. California relies overwhelmingly on the wealthy, on the investment class to pay taxes. But they're passing things like first of all, they have a highly progressive taxes. Like we have the highest tax on high income earners in the entire country. You add that to the fact that there's a ballot initiative to push what's called a wealth tax, meaning they don't just want to tax you on what you earn, they want to tax you on what you have, or what they think you, the value of what they believe you have. Already, since this proposal has been introduced, California has lost an estimated $1.2 to $1.3 trillion in wealth, meaning wealthy people who pay the taxes in California are leaving the state of California. They're leaving in huge numbers, and we're seeing a result in our tax receipts, in the receipts we're getting now. So we're going to see an economic downturn here in the state of California. We're going to see a budget downturn in the state of California. By the way, it's gotten so bad that Wells Fargo Bank, which is started in California, or I don't know if they started in California, but they have a significant presence in California. Well, their biggest department is their wealth management department. Moved out of California. It's now in Florida. Why? Because that's where all their clients moved. And people don't want their wealth management or their wealth to be managed in California anymore because the taxes are going to be so high. And so they left. And so Wells Fargo Wealth Management left. It's not a coincidence. None of this is a coincidence. People seem to think, or the unions seem to think, that just by begging for more money, by demanding more money, they can deal with the affordability crisis. I get it. California is more expensive. It's gotten more, it's a lot more hard, it's a lot harder to live the American dream in California now than it did in 2020. Right now, your dollar is worth about 75 to 80 cents on the dollar compared to what it was in 2020. And it's likely worse in California, where we have, because of fuel prices, where because of increased taxes, where because of overregulation, housing has gotten so out of reach. All of these things are the results of Democratic policies passed by the Democratic Party. You want to know why you can't build in certain places? Ask the Democratic politicians that run those places. You want to know why there's so much in terms of environmental costs, why it costs over $100,000 in fees and taxes and regulations before you even put a shovel in the ground to build a single family home in the state of California? You want to know why? Ask the Democrat politicians in the state legislature who passed this stuff. That's the reason why. It's not a mystery. Well, it's not a mystery to some of us because, see, Democrats are still trying to push this affordability thing. And that's, by the way, part of what what the unions are trying to do here. They're trying to make California more affordable by increasing the pay of teachers. Well, here's the problem, folks. When you increase the pay of teachers, guess what else goes up? Everything else, right? I use a great example. Great example is the cost of fast food minimum wage. They decided to push the increase the minimum wage in California for fast food restaurants to $20. As a result, tens of thousands of jobs in the fast food industry were lost in the state of California. So not only, for people who were able to retain their jobs, they got a pay increase, but tens of thousands of people who work in the fast food industry lost their jobs. Oh, by the way, guess what also happened to those folks who actually did see an increase in their pay? Their cost of living went up. Because people who work at minimum wage jobs are more likely to consume products, goods, and services that are produced by minimum wage workers. And so what did you do? You cost some people their jobs, and others you increase their cost of living. And now we're starting to, and this is what, by the way, what the worst part about all this is, when it comes to the teachers in particular, is they're holding students' educations hostage. When students are not in the classroom, and by the way, keep in mind, this is a state where 1 in 5 kids can read, write, and do math at grade level. Think about that. 1 in 5 can read, write, and or do math at grade level. I think they need as much time in the classroom as they can get. I don't think they need people, I don't think they need to be sitting at home or sitting in an auditorium because you don't have enough teachers. I mean, if nothing else, how about this? How about we start doing pay for performance? How about in the state of California, the better your numbers are, the more your kids or the closer your kids can get to reading, writing, and doing math at grade level, the more money we pay you. How about that? Nah, unions don't want that. They don't actually want to be judged on how well they do their job. They don't want their members to be judged. And by the way, I don't blame them. When I say I don't blame them, I don't blame them because that's their job. Their job is to improve the salary, improve the wage, benefits, and working conditions for their members. That's their job. I blame policymakers for giving in to that. I blame the people who elect the union leadership, right? I blame people who say, well, the California Teachers Association is an education advocacy group. No, they are not. They are a labor union. Their job, once again, is to advocate for their members, to increase the power of their members, to increase the wages and benefit of their members. Their job is not to advocate on behalf of education, because if they did, they'd be in class. Their members would be in classrooms right now, but they are not. Instead, they're out on picket lines. And that is the fault of no one except the unions. Right? I mean, and it's, by the way, the funny part is that if you really want to come down to it, it's the unaffordability policies that the very Democrats that the unions have supported that have created this mess for them. Right? Great example is right there in the state of Nevada. Nevada is the neighbor to the state of California, and they're dealing with an affordability crisis right there. Now, Nevada used to be known as a very affordable place to live, right? In fact, that's the very subject of this Associated Press article right here. It says, once a beacon of cheap homes, Nevada has become a symbol of America's struggle with high costs. When his parents were about his age, they bought their first home. But for 27-year-old Brian Torres Souzo, that milestone feels like a distant dream, despite a secure job with union wages and down payment assistance. Torres expects to continue sharing an apartment with roommates for the foreseeable future, kept on the sidelines of home ownership by stubbornly high prices, even in cities once known for their affordability, such as his native Las Vegas. He is not alone. A restless electorate frustrated by high prices, the cost of housing stands out. Democrats are pushing to channel this anger to support their quest to chip away at Republicans' unified control of Washington, maintaining their focus on economic concerns, even when war with Iran dominates the news. Their path cuts through Nevada, a perennial swing state won by Republican Donald Trump in 2024 presidential election, and now home to closely contested U.S. House races. Quote, I would be paying a lot more in mortgage than I am rent right now, said Torres Souzo, a food runner at the Las Vegas Strip. Sometimes he feels like politicians aren't listening to the people like him. It'd be nice if more people that knew what it's like to work for a living could be in those rooms making decisions, he added. Now, they talk about housing affordability. Housing affordability isn't just a coastal cost. In all directions from strip track homes with sharp angled roofs and earthy paint schemes sprout from the desert by the dozen streets, nowhere snake through the dirt. Ready for future homes. Wooden signs dot roads advertising homes from $300,000 for a townhome to $1 million for big houses in most desirable suburban neighborhoods. Now, the funny part is that now they're blaming big investors. They're saying big investors basically own 11% of single-family homes in Las Vegas, and they're buying them to rent them out. These are companies like Blackstone that give money to Democratic politicians, almost exclusively to Democratic politicians. And they're pointing out that, the midterm elections are going to count on the issue of affordability. But once again, I want to ask you, who's setting the policies that have causes the cost in Las Vegas to go up? Democrats. Who sets the policy in the state of Nevada, which, while it is a perennial swing state, but the legislature for the last decade, I believe, or the last few years at least, has been controlled by Democrats. If you want to look at environmental regulation, if you want to look at wage regulations, if you want to look at restrictive zoning laws, all of that are things that have been put in place by Democrats. These are the things that are driving up the cost of housing. Oh, by the way, the other thing is I hate to say this, but it's also people moving there. Why are they moving there? Because they're leaving California. The number one destination for people leaving Los Angeles is Las Vegas. Most of the people who are, by the way, electing these people in Las Vegas are from Los Angeles, which is odd. It's like, okay, wait a minute. You couldn't afford to live the American dream in California, in Los Angeles, where you elected Democrat from governor all the way down to dog catcher. You recognize that it's unaffordable. You can no longer afford to live the American dream there. So you go to Las Vegas. You go to another state, you take your stinking thinking with you, and you elect the same exact people. And then you wonder why it ain't working. They implement the same exact policies. Look at the places that have been deemed the most unaffordable. New York, San Diego, which, oh, by the way, the most expensive places to live in the country, in the top 10, like 6 to 7 of them are in California. I think there's one in Florida. And that's, when I talk about unaffordable, at least there for a multi-million-dollar home, you're getting a mansion. It may be unaffordable. There may not be a lot of affordable housing there. But it ain't like California, like the San Francisco Bay Area, where you pay $1 million and you may get an 800 to 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath home. Yeah, that's what they're paying there. Just not saying. Just saying. But once again, that's all the impact of Democratic policies. Now, I'm not saying you don't need any environmental policies, but there's got to be things within reason. I'm not saying that you don't need any wage laws. Well, I am saying you don't need any wage laws. I'm sorry, but minimum wage, economics 101, basic economics, price ceilings and price floors cause economic problems. They just do. That's just basic economics. It's called law of supply and demand. If you don't know what that is, take a moment and look it up. But once again, you can't think that you can blame policies, you can blame Republicans, and that's what they're hoping. They're hoping that they can blame Republicans because Republicans are now in charge. What they don't show you, what they don't tell you is a lot of costs have leveled off. Some costs have gone down, but for the most part, costs have leveled off. Inflation is down now from a high of 10%. It's down now to a low of about 2.3%. The general target that you're looking for is to get it down around or under 2%. But overwhelmingly, the overwhelming majority of the increase in cost, probably about 90% of the increase in cost that you've experienced in the last 5 years, happened during the Biden administration. It happened when we were flooding the economy with tons of money that had no backing. We were literally printing money and sending it out into the world. On top of restricting where we could drill for energy or seek energy. On top of adding government jobs. By the way, almost overwhelmingly the majority of the jobs that were created during the Biden administration were government jobs, meaning they're not producing anything. At least right now, at least in the Trump administration, what you're seeing is the jobs that are being created, although, it's not growing as fast as I think any of us would like, but the jobs that are being created are overwhelmingly being created in the private sector. They are people who are creating Well, they're adding to the GDP, as opposed to those that are being funded and paid for by tax dollars. See, those people in private industry, they're being paid with the money you earn. You're right. You earn money, you go buy something, right? You go buy something, you go pay for a service. They earn money, they pay taxes. That's how that works. But see, that's not what what they were benefiting from under the Biden administration. It was basically people go get a job and you get nothing except you pay for that person's job. And that's why when you see government jobs being under attack, when you see a lot of new hires, thanks to Doge being let go, that's because those were jobs that were literally just created for no real good reason other than to say, hey, we created a job. No, you didn't create a job. You created a government program that is not creating or adding value. Anyway. At least I know, well, some folks here in this office may disagree with that, but I know y'all won't, because y'all believe in the free market. You understand how economics work. That's why you watch this program, because you get it. Sadly, not everybody does. All right, and speaking of not getting it, okay, it's been the weekend now. We've had several days for Mamdani to take a look at what happened, to think about what happened and say, we need to talk about not just general political vibe, but we need to be very, very specific. Because Mamdani decided that he was going to come out and he decried white supremacy in the protest that was taking place outside of his home. And I happen to be, first of all, most things that they call white supremacy are not white supremacy. They want to call it white supremacy because that's what they want to call it. This particular case, this was racism. He's honest about that. He's right about that. In this particular case, this was in fact racism, these people who were protesting out in front of his house. But the interesting thing is that the way in which they portrayed it, and the way in which the media, by the way, has portrayed it is, violence occurred occurred as a result of an anti-Muslim protest. What they don't tell you is that the racists were not the ones throwing bombs. It was in fact two individuals who were radicalized by Islam. Here you have Mamdani condemns white supremacy protests, but not radical Islam after ISIS-linked bomb attack. It says here, an anti-Islam protest led by Jake Lang, who has described himself as a January 6th political prisoner, drew counter-protesters outside Gracie Mansion. During the demonstration, authorities said at least one device was ignited. Two suspects identified by the authorities as Amir Balat, 18, and Ibrahim Kayumi, 19, were arrested at the scene in connection with the incident. Police revealed the device was improvised explosive device consisting of a sports drink bottle filled with volatile explosive material known as TATP, placed inside a glass jar and surrounded by nuts and bolts. The New York Post reported the law enforcement sources said Balat used the Arabic phrase Allahu Akbar after his police interview. During the brief appearance before reporters, he flashed a single finger gesture associated with ISIS. And then Mamdani went on to say this: Yesterday, white supremacist Jake Lang organized a protest outside Gracie Mansion rooted in bigotry and racism. Such hate has no place in New York City. It is an affront to our city's values and the unity that defines who we are. What followed was even more disturbing. Violence at a protest is never acceptable. The attempt to use an explosive device to hurt others is not only criminal, it is reprehensible and the antithesis of who we are. I want to thank the brave men and women of the NYPD who acted quickly to keep New York safe. Our officers ran toward danger without hesitation, demonstrating once again the courage and dedication it takes to protect the city every single day. My administration is closely monitoring the situation, and I remain in close contact with our police commissioner. Now, notice, missing from this was the fact that this was something that was done by basically two people who acknowledged in themselves that they were motivated, that they were basically that they were radicalized by ISIS. How is this not a thing? How is this not a thing that you have to address? How is this not a thing that you are going to address? Why are you going to come and make it sound like, well, what happened was these racist protesters brought a bomb? That's what they want you to think. That's how they want you to walk away from it. But they don't want you to know that, yeah, this was one of the people who were part of the peaceful religion of Islam. They don't want you to know that. I don't know why they don't want you to know that, but they don't. If we're being honest, right? Anyway. Last story, the day. Trump order cutting ties with Anthropic is on the way. Now, you might recall Anthropic, they're the ones that make Claude. Claude has so far proven to be by far the most effective and the best of all of the AIs so far, in particular for the work that's being done in the military. Now, one of the things that Anthropic said that they wanted to do was they wanted to make sure that the military did not use Anthropic in any of its items where there was no human check on it. Meaning, in particular, when it came to targeting, where they were going to be using it for targeting, they always wanted to make sure that there was a human check. Well, the Pentagon pushed back. And the reason the Pentagon pushed back was because they don't want it, not that they're planning on ever using it, to be for places or for if there's ever an opportunity. Not that they're arguing that they were going to use it without any sort of a human check before they check on targets. The whole point is that they want to make sure they cannot agree to restrictions to the use of a product that they have already bought and paid for. You don't get to come back and say, well, no, this is what you get to use it for. No, if I bought it, I own it, and I can use it any which way I want. Because if you allow them to get away with doing that with this, then they'll get away with doing that with other stuff. It says here, Trump order cutting ties with Anthropic likely to come later this week, sources say. It says here, President Trump will issue an executive order to remove Anthropic's AI technology from agencies across the executive branch. Sources familiar with the matter tell CBS News, saying the move could come as soon as this week. Mr. Trump announced on February 27 that he was ordering all federal agencies to immediately cease the use of Anthropic's technology after a dispute between the Pentagon and Anthropic over guardrails on military use of Claude, the company's flagship AI model. The Pentagon has initiated a 6-month phase-out of Claude. Other agencies, including the Treasury Department, have said they are discontinuing the use of Anthropic's products. Axios first reported that the White House was preparing an executive order to formalize the president's directive. So in other words, they're basically saying, yeah, no, if you're going to try and dictate to us how we can use something that we bought and paid for, then we're going to not use it. And I'm okay with that. I think that's the way they should do it. I don't think, it's like telling someone, it's like, okay, if Lockheed Martin said, okay, well, you can buy our planes, but you can't use our planes to drop bombs. Well, then what good are those planes to the military? Why would you buy those planes in the military if you can't use it to do whatever it is that you want? Maybe they don't want it to drop the bunker buster bomb. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. Once I buy it, I own it, and you don't get to dictate how I use it. And the American government needs to be the same way. And I guess they're figuring, yeah, nah, done with y'all then. Y'all need Americans' business a lot more than America needs your business. Anyway, just my 2 cents. All right, folks, well, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word. Get your Hog Holster today. Our parting shots today will all be brought to you by our friends over at the Babylon Beef, fake news that you can trust. It says here, CNN reports on Japanese teenagers who came to Hawaii for what could have been a beautiful day at the beach. And that, by the way, is kind of a play on what they did with the 2 teenagers. They basically talked about how they came to New York and their visit could have been so different, right? They acted as if what happened to them, not that they actually did something wrong, like, I don't know, try to throw bombs at people they politically disagreed with. Iran warns U.S. it has a huge stockpile of supreme leaders, and that's why their newest leader is the son of the former leader. So, which, by the way, come to find out, in his will, in whatever document he left, he specifically said, "Do not make this dude in charge of anything." Right? I mean, his own father didn't want him running the country, and now he is. So maybe that's why I decided to go ahead and make him third, because they figure he'll probably get taken out. About that, I do not know. And then finally, Europe, under persistent delusion, anyone cares what it thinks. And here's the deal. The reason why we don't care is because in many cases, with the exception of countries like Poland, which are standing up for Western values, which is standing up for against the radicalization of their government by those who are basically flooding into their country, that's pretty much it. And so what I find funny is that Europe only has a national defense because we provide it for them. So I give a rip what they have to say about anything on the world stage, to be quite honest. Not saying, just saying. Anyway, like I said, not saying, just saying. Anyway, folks, that now brings us to the end of our show. But before we go, we're going to give one more quick shout out to our sponsors. We've got Hitman Industries rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at hitmanindustries.net. We've got the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party, at cragop.org. We've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, we've got the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun, and that would be at uscombatgear.com. And that will once again be it for today. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program with your friends and encouraging your friends to do the same. We will be back tomorrow on Throat Punch Thursday. Till then, y'all have fun. Stay safe. We'll see you mañana.